So I'm here to speak about challenges in the development of our projects, which is a very dear argument to me, since the very existence of Optit was to how to bring operational research into business. For those who do not know us, just a few words. We were founded by Daniele Vigo, professor of operational research at the University of Bologna in 2007. We are a spin-off of the university, and our mission is really to develop decision support system based on operational research and advanced analytics at large. Really, we live off our projects, and I've collected a number of experience throughout the last 12 years to try to find what happens when OR is brought, as I said, from the world of ideas or from a Platonic experience to the ground. So I think that the typical OR project, as everyone knows it, is something that starts with identifying a problem description, understanding a business process, qualifying it and describing it in somewhat mathematical terms, looking at what data are available, and make sure that this data can actually be the fuel of a model, and then actually develop most likely a simulation or optimization model, run it, test it, calibrate it, and eventually share it with the end user. This is very much what happens at university, and what happens in all of our projects, and I think that most of us are very much at ease with this kind of process. The fact is, this is not everything that needs to happen for an operations research project to happen. In our experience, of course, we are a solution company. The life of an operations research project starts very much before entering the problem description, because we need to get in touch with the people who actually want to develop actually have the need for some kind of optimization project. This has a long story, or normally means creating a long story up to the point where you actually engage in the real analysis. So there is a life before the project, and there is a life after the model has actually been developed, because in most cases we found that just having a model isn't enough. Very likely the customer or the user will actually need to embed the model in some kind of environment which makes it very usable, and can be evolved and maintained over time. I mean, to make this presentation more interesting, I will use some anecdotes coming from our life experience. And I want to focus here on how difficult it can be to come to actually start a project, even when the OR model and objective is quite clear. There was an issue. I won't make names so that I'm more free to speak about the facts. We were in touch with an important company. We had found a very interesting project in supply chain optimization that we could do with them, and this project had actually been gone through a prototyping phase through a university project. So everything was really set up to start with the typical OR project description. The point was that the business user came to us and said, guys, you are a very small company. You need to sell this to the wider corporation. So you should partner up with someone bigger than you, so that adds you credibility, and you should go together with this bigger partner into the negotiation. So we set up a fairly important partnership with a large player, and we went to see the managers. We presented the idea. The idea was quite clear. We already knew that it would bring huge and interesting results. But their answer then was, okay, guys, but we actually want to do this with our certified and usual providers, solution providers. So they actually went not to one but two existing providers. They showed them their business idea and they asked them to proceed with that. To make the story short, the first provider was then excluded because they weren't capable of doing it, and the second one because to do the project would have been practically too expensive to actually reach a decent result. The whole process lasted 3 years, and after 3 years they said, okay, we are unable to provide you with they went back to the business user and they said, okay, guys, go as you wish. If you want to proceed with Opti, that's okay for us. And after 6 months, we were live. This is to say that even if everything was really set, it took 3 years to prepare for a business project. Of course, I'm speaking as an external company, but I'm pretty sure that the internal dynamics in large corporations can be pretty similar. The key element of being someone who supports a business with the operational research project, I think, is that in fact you become support in the digital innovation. Also because, as I said, the model itself is most likely not sufficient, and it needs to evolve and carry on its life throughout the whole process duration, which could be many and many years after the project is actually released. So it is no surprise that on top of operational research and advanced analytics skills, there's no load of competencies that are required for a project to be run. For sure, some knowledge and sound knowledge of the business process, but also software engineering, because in order to develop a solution, you need to be very, very competent in engineering a solution. Sorry, is there any? I heard a noise. Sorry. Providing customer support puts a lot of challenges in terms of managing SLAs, providing business continuity, being able to support process which is not only technical but also sometimes in merit, and of course all the commercial, marketing and sales, and sometimes even legal and intellectual property right issues that need to be managed. So we start from the beginning to see how the competences that are required for running operational researches are actually much more than just sound technical mathematical modeling skills. And then there's another point. You will have already understood how in this process you come across with a lot of stakeholders, each one with its own expectations. The typical elements that I mentioned before were people from the business, people who knew what the process is all about, and the ICT managers. And typically, these guys come with different objectives. The business unit manager is normally the budget owner, and he or she wants to know what is the economic impact of a project. So he or she will most likely ask the question, how much am I going to save by optimizing this process? And the same question, in fact, is going to be asked also from the process owner, which is more focused on the efficiency and the organizational impacts of a project. And the funny thing is that the correct answer is always, it's impossible to say up front, because it depends on what the level of efficiency and efficacy that you have now, which we cannot know without entering the analysis. But quite funnily, it's also a matter of perspective. If I speak with a business unit manager, the right answer to them will be actually they want a big economic impact. At the same time, if I speak to the process manager, if I could say what is the level of optimization that I'm going to meet, they may actually see that they don't want to show that the current process is too bad. So we found ourselves in many situations where we were actually prevented from saying what the level of optimization that had been reached was, because that would put bad light on the process owner, and this both upfront and afterwards. So very interesting how people from, coming from the same company actually look at the same thing with very different angles. And the ICT manager's question will normally be not how much, what is the impacts of optimization, but what kind of servers, what kind of hardware I'm going to have, how am I going to manage data security, because they're most worried with ICT governance. This is only the first level, because if we then go into senior staff in general, we've come across many top managers that wanted to be sure of how the operational research project would fit their innovation strategy. Most normally, these guys are very used and can be very useful in giving a broader light and enriching the big picture. But of course, they are never going to be concerned about the details of the project, which in fact are going to be discussed a lot with the process owner. Sometimes we come across speaking with administration, finance and control references. They're interested in the return on the investment on the one side. On the other side, they say, okay, if you're going to handle all those data, what kind of data are you going to feed into my control system? Which of course is yet another requirement area that may open up. When we go closer to the actual process, decision-making process that we're going to make, sort of support and engineer, the process owner is normally very, very good at knowing what the big process is, but they would normally not be the real users of the tool, so the real planners or dispatchers or whatever. And these guys are most normally going to be very much concerned, a bit less on actual optimization, but very concerned about the flexibility that they will have and the user experience. And user experience actually reflects also back to what we call beneficiaries, meaning the drivers of logistic fleet, or the plant manager or maintenance guys of plants that are being managed with unit commitment or something like this. That will mostly be concerned with feasibility, and they want to know that they will never run into cul-de-sac with their operations. So lots of different perspectives, and I'm not going to spend too much time on how to deal with procurement, because that's a big point. But of course, they will most normally be concerned with costs and maybe conditions, and we've come across almost every time that people want to ask us to comply with conditions that would normally apply to big solutions, software solutions. Funnily speaking, optimization projects are normally innovation projects where you know where you start, you don't really know where you end, and for sure, not even the process owner knows exactly what he's asking for. So that's a very, very complicated matter. Things may be normally a bit easier with research and development staff, because they are quite alike. They like to build know-how, even though sometimes they will be concerned with IPR. So I think there is a huge amount of expectations that is being managed whenever we enter an operational research project, and very often people will change role in their history. Actually, we know companies that go through fairly important reorganizational changes almost every year, and sometimes the old castle needs to be built up again. I'm running a bit later, so I can possibly go quickly on what is called the change management curve, which is all the expectation management, which normally goes from some initial exciting, lot of excitement, sometimes unmotivated excitement, and then a lot of disillusionment that may go into some level of depression before actual advantages of the new model can come in and move it. I mean, the company managed to move forward. I think that typical of operations research project is also what makes it sound and successful. We worked on a customer support staff scheduling, which was an amazing project with forecasting of arrivals, a lot of optimization and simulation that would interact in very interesting ways. This project was actually planned and published in a paper. The front end would be great. The actual project would provide amazing results in terms of, in spite of service demand increase with more or less the same resources. Average times would drop. Customer satisfaction index that would go rocket high. The actual capacity for the staff to manage their backlog, back office backlog was amazing. But at the time of the project, everything that was the key success metric to achieve customer acceptance was forecasting accuracy. No surprise that I'm particularly a big sponsor of integration of machine learning and operational research. And something similar also happened in a unique commitment. I won't go into details, where again the heat demand forecasting accuracy was the real testbed to achieve a customer acceptance. And there were also a lot of competition against manually constructed solution over very tiny margin. I remember discussing about €8 in margin difference over 1 hour throughout a 1 year budget, while maybe the uncertainty on price forecasted levels were 12%. Finally, user experience. There's a huge difference between providing a model that feeds Excels and a full stack solution that integrates with mobile devices, descriptive analytics, and whatever. I think that this shows a vast range of issues that are being faced by operational research specialists. Let me just spend 3 minutes on how we did cope with this in Optit. First of all, we identified that there is a scientific part, mathematics, statistics, and machine learning and data science at large, that needs to be integrated with business process, meaning consultants, people who speak the language of the business, and everything is being powered by ICT. We kept this as a sort of guiding principle in order to get specialization versus common objective. We've got specific people in each of these domains, and our role is actually to integrate them within Optit before bringing the solution out. Second big guideline, yes, of course, we've got cross-transversal skills on analytics and optimization. But once we get to a certain level of expertise, we also focused on vertical industries, in particular energy, waste, and logistics and supply chain. And this changes completely the game. Now we are being called as expert in the energy business, the district heating business, not in optimization. And I think that to a certain extent, optimization gets hidden within enterprise platforms that speed up the delivery time to bring a vast enterprise solution to the market. Can sometimes be the actual algorithm that is being sold, but we found that very often we just work as consultants. We never provide a line of code. And in some other cases, we provide an integrated enterprise solution with all the varieties of grays that the customer may need to request to satisfy their objectives and their integration needs within their systems. In general, a very important thing is start simple and build on things. So we normally start with a very lightweight consulting proof of concept, concentrating only on a prototype, and then step by step we go through an engineered solution that goes into management. Finally, now we are also capable to engineer a solution that embeds third-party models in some particular cases. Of course, this also brings all the solution development thing, but in the end, it always comes back to people capable of working together, capable of speaking together, acquiring each other's language, and eventually having lots of fun since we are very lucky to be in a very creative and interesting industry.